Bad girlfriend?
Experience.
Tragedy?
Being open-minded.
Yeah. I'm sorry, what?
Have a better attitude.
Have a better attitude. But change, it's like, I'm a child of the 60s. I'm older than most of the people in this room. I'll be 65 years old on May 31st. Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 65? So I feel honored and privileged to have been a member of that 60s generation. History tells us that the American Civil War ended in April of 1865. My life experience tells me that the American Civil War actually ended in the 1960s, not in the 1860s. There was so much racial unrest and racial reconciliation in the 60s. And so many of these hangovers from the Civil War continued right on. We saw violence. Some of us experienced it. I remember going down to Texas in 1968 and seeing signs in stores reinforcing racial segregation. And they were not nice signs. They were rude, very racist signs. I remember going down there to pick up our drummer. She had gone to visit relatives in Texas and she ran out of money and couldn't get back. She was an African-American woman. We were Mexican and white. We went down to pick her up. And we're coming back, and we got stopped for going 1 mile over the speed limit outside a little town called Coahoma, Texas. And this was like 1968. Righteously, it was like something right out of the heat of the night, you know. And this big old portly cowboy cop with a 10-gallon hat and a corncob pipe in his mouth comes up to the car and says, "Howdy," and I knew we were cooked. I just knew we were cooked. And he's shining his flashlight around, and Beth is sitting in the front seat with me, and he shines a light in her face, and he shines a light in my face, and he says, "I'll stop y'all because he was going 61 miles an hour in a 60-mile-an-hour zone, and that's a crime in Texas." He didn't use the word infraction, he used the word crime. And he went on to tell me that since it was Friday night, we had California plates. The only way that they could assure that we would be in court Monday morning was to keep us for the weekend in jail. And I said, "Can I pay the fine now?" And he said, "Y'all trying to bribe me, boy?" Which I said, the thought never crossed my mind, officer. So, long story short, we went to the judge's house that night. The judge was a woman, and we appeared at her house, and she appeared wearing an apron with chicken feathers and other things on it, and she took the apron off and took us into her parlor and held court and fined us $100 in 1968 for 1 mile over the speed limit. And we didn't have the $100. We had about $30-something between all of us. And she very generously suspended the sentence down to what it was we had and took every penny we had and sent us on our way. And I said, "Ma'am," I said, "we need gasoline." She said, "Well, y'all can pick up some hippies. They'll give you some gasoline." Oh, and she gave us mint julep. Yes, she wouldn't let us leave without sampling some of her nice non-alcoholic mint julep. And as we were leaving, she says, "Y'all come back." they have so many euphemisms in the South that I had to get used to. Like another Southern euphemism is, well, bless their heart. Like, well, he is such a gentleman when he's not drinking, which is most of the time, bless his heart. So they had some social values down there that were different than the ones here in California. Nazi Germany, World War II, during Hitler's reign. They had social values there that were not shared by everyone in society. In fact, there were Christian families who were hiding Jews at risk of their own life, at the risk of their whole family, and refusing to follow the social order of turning in Jews and others who were not deemed to be fit to live. And so think about that kind of a social value. What if they passed a law saying that you were required to turn in anybody you suspected of living here illegally? There have been some conservative politicians, by golly, who've been trying to pass laws like that. They haven't succeeded, but I know a lot of folks who are here unlawfully, who are here illegally. They work, they pay taxes, they pay into a social security system, and they're not going to get that money out. And there is no law that could force me to go around snitching off my neighbors and friends like that. Now, if somebody is breaking into my neighbor's house, of course I'd report them. It's a whole different deal. So social values change, and they don't always align with our personal values. Okay? There are some people whose social values say, why should I give a turn signal? It's nobody's damn business which way I'm going. Do you know people like that? Yeah, real rebels. Uh-huh. A lot of times you see them driving an old Malibu, and it's painted primer gray. You've seen it, right? You've seen that one on the road, right? Yeah, and the Camaro and the Firebird, yeah. And others, yeah.
It's like they've forgotten what that's for. No, a lot of people forget what that's for. It's the life there, but.
We have social values that really aid and help our society. And then we've got some that maybe don't. Who knows? And you have to make up your mind on that, because sometimes our social values and our personal values go hand in hand, and sometimes they don't go hand in hand. What are the symbols of social values on our highways?